For all of the players that had big breakout games or even seasons in 2021, like Gabriel Davis in the divisional round of the playoffs and Deebo Samuel for really all of last year, there were players that had down years or flat out missed the entire 2021 season that we may have either forgotten about or remembered them, but not for how good they were the last time we saw them play. And their talent didn't decimate overnight, and in today's video, we're going to discuss a couple of players that will be back in 2022 for multiple reasons, and without further ado, let's begin. And we're going to start today's video with Michael Thomas, the receiver from the New Orleans Saints. And when Mike was last healthy back in 2019, he had a pretty solid year, some would say, as he broke the single-season reception record set by Marvin Harrison back in 2002 and nearly had the first 150 reception NFL season ever. He missed all of 2021 due to an ankle injury and did not play a lot in 2020, and when he did, he was nowhere near himself, as he went from a 149 catch, 1,700 yard season to a 40 catch, 400 yard season, and seemingly went from a player on pace to be one of the greatest ever statistically to an afterthought guy that tweets a lot. And it's been quite the downfall for Mike over the last few years, but I do believe in him heading into 2022. What I think has to be remembered with Mike this year is, will he be the 2019 version of himself again? I would say probably not, as nobody else in the history of the NFL did what he did that year, period. But even if he is 80% of himself this year to what he was in 2019, he would still be in for a 119 catch, 1,380 yard year, which is all pro production. And it's not like Mike doesn't know how to prepare for NFL games, or he's a player who had a big collegiate freshman season and then missed 2 years and is now going to go up against one-on-one press coverage against Jalen Ramsey every single week. Mike obviously knows what it takes, and what I believe will only benefit him in a weird way is having Chris Olave on the other side of him and Jameis throwing to him. And one thing I think even Saints fans would have to agree on is Drew's arm limited what New Orleans could do from a vertical passing game, and that's what Jameis is very good at and what he loves to do: throw the ball down the field. And having a receiver who ran a sub 4.4 40 in Olave will have to be accounted for every single play. And Michael had 149 receptions in a season where running back Alvin Kamara had 81 receptions, so it's not like he did this with Alvin missing half the season and they had to feed him to keep up with other teams. Drew consistently fed him because he's reliable, he's a great receiver, and he makes plays. And you guys know I'm a Vikings fan, and I do get my jokes in where I can on Twitter, but the slant boy joke and narrative is ridiculous. If Michael Thomas ran slants and slants only, it would be insanely easy to cover him and you guys would never hear of him, other than him being a former second-round pick. Have a corner line up inside and press him, and if you need to, have a linebacker ready to intercept the said slant. But Mike is a very good route runner, and if he stays healthy in 2022, there's no reason he can't be a 100 reception player for what would be the 4th time in his career. And from one receiver we go to another to discuss Cortland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Cortland will be entering year 5 of his career this fall, and after a productive first 2 years, including the only 1,000-yard year of his career back in 2019, he has just 61 catches over the past 2 years, and Cortland tore his ACL early in the 2020 season and didn't exactly have the best quarterback play in 2021, or for really the entirety of his career either. As we all know though, that changed in a very big way this offseason, and Russell Wilson is now the quarterback for the Broncos, and quite honestly, I'd be shocked if Sutton plays all 17 games this fall and doesn't have at least 1,000 yards. He did it in 2019 with a trio of, and this is a doozy here, Joe Flacco, a 11-year vet Joe Flacco at that, a rookie Drew Lock, and Brandon Allen, who cumulatively had 3,400 yards that year as the Broncos' starting quarterbacks. Cortland's talent is undeniable, and what benefits him, and not just him, but Keenan Allen, Sky Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Adams, and every other receiver out there, is the division they play in. And going from Drew Lock as a rookie and to Russell Wilson is like going from not quite Baltic, but probably Connecticut Avenue on the Monopoly board to Park Place, and Cortland will reap the benefits. In 2020, DK Metcalf caught 83 passes for 1,300 yards with Russ, and there's no reason Sutton can't do the same, or at least be very close to that. Remember, Cortland has just 842 yards over the past 2 seasons, and this is the definition of buy low, and for any dynasty fantasy football players out there, if there's even a remote chance you can buy him for a fraction of the price, do it, because it will be worth it. And from the AFC back to the NFC we go to discuss Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. Danielle was a player that had a hell of a start to his career, as in 2019, shortly after turning 25, he became the youngest player to 50 career sacks, and when you're that young with that many sacks, it's not hard to start really career projecting and thinking, man, if this guy stays healthy until he's 32 or so and can put up what he did at the age 25 season, which was his second of back-to-back 14.5 sack seasons, we'd be talking about a player who could very easily finish his career with over 150 or 160 sacks if he stays healthy. Again, that was best case scenario, but here we are over 2 years later, in a year where Danielle will turn 28 and has 60.5 career sacks. He missed all of 2020 with a neck injury in what was an extremely frustrating year, not just for him personally, but for the entire Minnesota Vikings organization, from losing in January of 2020 in the playoffs to San Francisco by 17 points, to of course COVID, to giving up 43 points in a home opener to the arch-rival Packers, and then lose your star pass rusher for all but 7 games over the next 2 seasons. So needless to say, Danielle has had a rough go of it the past couple of times around the sun. However, in a year where the Vikings are switching to a 3-4 system and will have Ed Donatel as their defensive coordinator, and coming off of effectively a 2-season hiatus, this in a lot of ways is a pivotal point in Danielle's career. He has the talent, and that's obvious when you turn the tape on. But one thing I'm looking forward to is how much of a locker room leader teammate Za'Darius Smith is, and how much he'll be able to bring out of Danielle as they go on one common quest, and that's to get after the quarterback. If Danielle has a 16 or 17 sack season this year and plays every game without a hint of an injury, he'll make his 3rd career Pro Bowl, and rightfully so, and receive a handsome new contract, and I really hope he does. Next up is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, and this is a bit of an unconventional pick when discussing players that are going to bounce back, especially when you think to yourself, they just traded their best receiver in Marquise Brown, and this guy is saying Lamar is going to bounce back of all players. Well, let's dive in here. Lamar Jackson undoubtedly played the best football of his NFL career in 2019, and that was when the Ravens went 14-2 and he won an MVP. Not bad for a running back, right? But what's kind of forgotten about that is Lamar wasn't throwing the ball 50 times a game or throwing for 350 yards a game that year either. In fact, Lamar only had one 300-yard game the entire season, and it was in the opener against the Dolphins, and a lot of that can be attributed to him hitting Hollywood Brown on an 83-yard touchdown pass as the route was on that day. The Ravens won 59-10. But aside from that game, he had no games of even 275 passing yards, and there's a reason for that. The Ravens are at their best when they are running the football efficiently, when they don't need Lamar to throw for 400 yards, which he has done in his career before, by the way. And with the Ravens drafting center Tyler Linderbaum, ironically with the pick they received for Marquise Brown, Baltimore is only going to want to run at teams more with J.K. Dobbins, who could very easily have been in today's video, with the Gus Bus and Gus Edwards, who both missed the 2021 seasons due to torn ACLs, or with Justice Hill, who by the way is in a contract year and will be doing everything he can to extend his NFL career, or 6th round rookie Tyler Beatty. The rest of the AFC is doing everything they can to throw the football more and more and more, but when they zig, Baltimore Zags. And they drafted a couple of more tight ends this year in Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina and Charlie Kolar from Iowa State. The Ravens are not going to be a team where you see Rashad Bateman have 6 straight 100-yard games and 14 touchdowns on the year because the chemistry between him and Lamar is that good. In fact, they probably would prefer he didn't, because that would mean they'd have to stray away from their game plan of running the football and throwing to big targets in Mark Andrews, in 300-plus pound fullback defensive tackle hybrid Pat Ricard, and the 2022 draftees Kolar and Likely. Lamar's average depth of target is probably going to be pretty low relative to the rest of the NFL, but he will be efficient, just like he was in 2019, and the Ravens are going to wear a ton of teams down, and they're going to win a lot of ball games, and Lamar will be back. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because it would truly mean the world. Please join the Discord, the link is in the bio, and until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.